A little wax, one warm cup, and the hush of evergreen. Welcome to Earthy Remedy. I'm Fiona, and tonight we're settling in with Bayberry, fragrant, waxy berries that have lived for generations in hearth rituals. We'll make a short simmer tonic, a tiny wax lip balm with a buy or render option, and a gentle hearth mist. All small, single-jar practices you can finish this evening. If that sounds like your kind of winter slowdown, stay with us.
Hello, I'm Samnung. Picture a hedgerow that smells faintly of evergreen and citrus peel, the kind of scent that makes you think of old houses and slow afternoons. That's Bayberry for me. Tonight, we'll walk through what it is, where to source it responsibly, and very careful steps for each small project. We'll be explicit about safety and give you a buy-in option if rendering wax feels too fussy.
Quick note before we begin. This episode is strictly sensory and craft-focused. We won't be making medical claims. If you have allergies, sensitivities, are pregnant or on medication, and plan to use botanicals internally or regularly, check with a professional. Now, soft hearth crackle in mind, let's begin.
Imagine a small pot on the stove, steam carrying a resinous lift, a hint of orange peel. One tiny jar of balm sits nearby, warm and honeyed. That's the evening we invite you into. Simple, small batch, and intentional.
Segment 1. Understanding Bayberry. Let's start with the plant. Bayberry is a common name applied to species in the Myrica or Morella group, small shrubs with tiny round berries coated in a natural wax. The wax is what has historically made them useful for candles and household waxes.
Sensory portrait, the berries themselves are small, dark, and a little bumpy. When you heat them gently, that wax begins to lift. Not a floral sweetness, but an evergreen, resinous note, like a conifer with a faint citrus thread. It's subtle and winter-friendly.
A quick distinction people ask about: bayberry versus wax myrtle. They can be related, but regional names vary. The important sourcing cue is this: buy labeled, dried bayberry berries or labeled bayberry wax from a reputable supplier, unless you are experienced with local identification. If you're foraging, always confirm species with a regional guide and check local regulations.
And one practical note, yields are low. You need quite a few berries to get a teaspoon of wax. That's why this episode centers on small jars and offers purchased wax pathways. It's a tiny craft, not an industrial one.
Segment 2. Tradition and Kitchen House Lore. Historically, bayberry wax was prized for its clean burn and nostalgic scent. In New England, bayberry candles were a holiday tradition, small tallow-free candles believed to bring luck. In other places, the plant has been part of household routines, used sparingly to scent rooms or polish wood.
I love those vignettes. There's a practical side, too. Because the wax yield is so small, communities historically mixed bayberry wax with other waxes or used it for tiny objects, lip balm-sized tins, little decorative bits, or to scent a bundle of dried herbs. That practice inspired our single-jar focus.
Sustainability and legal foraging guidance do not encourage indiscriminate wild harvesting. If you plan to forage, check property permissions, local conservation rules, and harvest sparingly. Only a few berries per shrub, and never clear-cut a stand. Prefer buying from ethical suppliers who label species and origin.
If you can't find bayberry berries locally, it's perfectly fine to use a small amount of purchased bayberry wax or a neutral beeswax alternative for the balm. We'll give both pathways in the recipe so no one feels stuck.
Segment 3. Introducing the remedies. Why these 3? The simmer tonic gives a short, aromatic sip, or diluted spritz for the home. The tiny balm lets you carry that bayberry note with you. And the hearth mist gives a gentle, non-oily way to scent a room. All are designed for small batches, low waste, and accessible equipment.
These suit plant-curious listeners who enjoy slow crafts. folks who want a winter scent without heavy perfumes, and anyone who likes to try one small ritual. Who should skip? Anyone with an allergy to Myricus species, or people who are uncomfortable with even low-heat waxwork. Try the purchased wax option instead.
Segment 4. Recipe. Step-by-step instructions. We'll read ingredients slowly first, then equipment, then stepwise instructions for each of the 3 projects. If you're following along in your kitchen, pause between each step so you can act without rush. Ingredient list. Read slowly. For the Bayberry Simmer Tonic, 300 milliliters of water, 8 to 12 dried bayberries, 1 small cinnamon stick, 1 strip of orange peel, roughly 2 inches long. Optional, a teaspoon of honey or simple syrup for sweetness when serving. That's 300 milliliters of water, 8 to 12 berries, 1 cinnamon stick, 1 orange peel.
For the Bayberry Lip Balm, single jar measure options. Option A, rendering from berries. About 50 to 80 grams of dried bayberries to render a very small wax yield. Expect roughly 1 to 2 teaspoons of wax at best. Option B, purchase pathway. 1 teaspoon, about 5 grams, of purchased bayberry wax, or 1 teaspoon of beeswax alternative, if you prefer the scent to be milder, plus 15 milliliters of neutral carrier oil, like sweet almond or jojoba. Optional, 1 to 2 drops of vitamin E oil as a preservative boost, and a tiny drop of citrus essential oil if you like a brighter note. If you're using purchased wax, you'll get much easier results.
For the Hearth Mist, start with 200 milliliters of cooled bayberry infusion. We'll make this from a portion of the tonic infusion. Then dilute at a ratio of 1 part infusion to 4 parts distilled water for a light misting. You'll need a 100 milliliter spray bottle or similar.
Equipment, a small pot for simmering, a fine sieve or cheesecloth for straining, a heat-proof jar for cooling and storing, a small double boiler or a heat-safe bowl over a pan for waxwork, a tiny balm tin or lip balm tube, and a spray bottle for the mist. Also have oven mitts and a lid nearby for safety.
Part A. Bayberry Simmer Tonic. Step 1. Pour 300 milliliters of water into your small pot. Turn heat to medium-high. While it warms, gather 8 to 12 bayberries, the small cinnamon stick, and your orange peel. You'll notice the water starting to steam. Pause here and take a breath.
Step 2. Once the water comes to a gentle boil, add your bayberries, cinnamon, and orange peel. Reduce heat to low so the pot is at a gentle simmer. Let it simmer, uncovered, for 12 to 18 minutes. You're aiming for the water to deepen slightly in color and for a subtle evergreen citrus aroma to rise. Do not let it boil vigorously. Low heat preserves delicate aromatics.
Step 3. After 12 to 18 minutes, remove from heat and allow the mixture to cool until warm. Strain through a fine sieve or cheesecloth into a heat-proof jar. You can sip a small amount warm. This is aromatic and primarily for ritual sipping, or cool it fully if you plan to use part as the basis for your hearth mist. If you choose to sweeten, add up to 1 teaspoon of honey once it's warm, not hot.
Storage for the tonic, keep refrigerated and use within 48 hours. For the hearth mist, we'll cool and then dilute the infusion. I'll walk through that in a moment.
Part B. Bayberry Wax Balm. Option 1. Rendering small batch wax. Important safety note up front. Only use a double boiler setup or a heat-safe bowl over low simmering water. Never heat wax directly on an open flame. Keep a lid and oven mitts nearby in case of splatter. Step 1. Put 50 to 80 grams of dried bayberries into a very small pot with just enough water to barely cover the bottom. Think a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons, because the wax lifts with heat rather than dissolving. Keep the heat very low.
Step 2. Gently warm the pot, allowing the wax to melt and float to the surface. This can take time. Patience is key. You might see a faint sheen at the top. When you see wax pooling, Turn off heat and let the entire pot cool until the wax solidifies on the surface. Then, use a spoon to lift the solid wax and transfer it to a small double boiler or heat-safe bowl to remelt later with oil for the balm.
Step 3. If you prefer the bought wax shortcut, measure 1 teaspoon of purchased Bayberry wax or beeswax alternative into your double boiler. Add 15 milliliters of carrier oil. For home-rendered wax, use whatever small amount you collected and top up with carrier oil to reach the same ratio, roughly 1 part wax to 3 parts oil by volume for a soft balm. Warm gently until melted. Keep heat low so the oil doesn't overheat. Stir gently to combine.
Step 4. Remove from heat. If you like, add 1 to 2 drops of vitamin E and an optional single drop of citrus essential oil for brightness. Stir, then pour into a small balm tin or lip tube. Let it cool fully at room temperature for at least 30 minutes before capping. Label your tin with date and small batch notes.
Yield note. If you rendered wax from berries, expect a tiny yield. This is a craft experiment. If you prefer more predictable results, use purchased Bayberry wax or beeswax alternative. Patch test any topical balm on the inside of your wrist and wait 24 hours to check for irritation before regular lip use.
Part C. Hearth Mist. Step 1. Take 200 milliliters of cooled Bayberry infusion from your simmer tonic. Measure out 200 milliliters, then dilute at a ratio of 1 part infusion to 4 parts distilled water. For instance, 50 milliliters infusion plus 200 milliliters distilled water makes a light mist.
Step 2. Add the mixture to a clean spray bottle and shake gently. Do not use essential oil forward recipes in an open mist if you're unsure about room sensitivities. This is a water forward mist with gentle fragrance. Label the bottle with contents and date. Use within 5 to 7 days and store in the fridge if you want to extend freshness. Always shake before use.
Sensory moment option. If you want to make a tiny, immediate experience, spray 1 or 2 pumps into a room corner or over fabric. Then step back and breathe in. Notice the cool, resinous lift and the faint citrus thread from the orange peel. That's the hearth we invited at the top of the episode.
Storage and serving tips. For the tonic, refrigerate and use within 48 hours. For the balm, keep in a cool, dry place. Expect a shelf life of several months when using clean utensils and glass containers. Label with date. For the mist, 5 to 7 days refrigerated. Discard if cloudy or off-smelling. Always use clean equipment and small batches to avoid waste.
Safety, cautions, and when to avoid. Fiona, can you walk listeners through the big safety points?
Absolutely. First, ethical sourcing. Prefer purchased labeled Bayberry berries or wax from a reputable vendor. If foraging, verify species, follow local rules, take only a few berries, and never clear a plant. Second, wax rendering safety. Use a double boiler, keep heat low, never leave melting wax unattended, and have oven mitts and a lid close by. If a small fire starts, cover the pot. Do not douse with water. Third, topical safety. Patch test balm on your inner wrist for 24 hours and stop use at first sign of irritation. Fourth, a non-medical reminder. If you're pregnant, nursing, or on regular medication and thinking about regular internal use of botanicals, consult a healthcare professional before making that part of your routine.
And one gentle practical tip. Because yields can frustrate folks, start with the purchased wax option if you're new to waxwork. You can always try a tiny rendering experiment later when you're ready.
Segment 6. Reflection and encouragement. Let's take a quiet moment. Close your eyes if you can. Imagine holding your warmed small jar of balm in your palms. Feel the weight. Breathe in the resinous note that carries a hint of orange. Listen for a distant crackle of hearth. This is not about perfection. It's about a small, repeatable pause in winter.
Try one small Bayberry habit this week. Make the simmer tonic and use a little as the base for your Hearth mist, or pour a tiny balm and keep it by your bedside. Share one photo or a short voice note telling us what you tried and what it felt like.
Call to action. If you loved this quiet single jar approach, subscribe to Earthy Remedy so these slow craft episodes arrive in your feed. Try one small Bayberry step this week and send us a short voice note or photo. Tell us which pathway you took, rendered wax or purchased wax. We read a few listener notes each season and love seeing little jars come to life.
Before we go, the full written single jar recipes, sourcing links for labeled Bayberry and Bayberry wax, and a safety checklist are in the show notes. If rendering sounds daunting, remember, small jars, small experiments.
Thank you for sharing this quiet hour with us. Listen to your body. Trust the earth. Feel the difference. I'm Fiona.
And I'm Samnung. Take care with your heat, be kind to your hedgerows, and make something small tonight. Until next time.